Welcome back to Leeds Lately. Today's going to be a very different video. We're going to be looking at some Leeds United hot takes from some of your favourite Leeds United content creators. So make sure you smash that big red button down below. But let's get straight into it, and we're going to start with Jer.
Hot take. Dan James, by the end of this season, will still be one of Leeds United's most important players. He gets forgotten about all the time. He gets underappreciated all the time. And come the end of this season, Dan James will still be one of the most important players in that Leeds team in terms of assists and goals and his general play as well. So for me, Dan James will be labelled as a very important player for Leeds by the end of the season, even though he doesn't get the appreciation he deserves at times.
Yeah, quite honestly, I agree with Jer here. It's a little bit of a hot take because there's a lot of Leeds fans who still think that Dan James is useless, still think that he's not great at shooting or doing anything else really, just a bit of a speed merchant. But for me, I got to agree with Joe here because, I mean, start of last season, we did pre-season predictions on Joe's channel, and I said Dan James will be, my hot take for that season would be that Dan James will be up there in terms of goals and assists, and he was, and he's someone who I think is criminally underrated, and obviously Joe does too, and he's someone who's very important to the team. I said when these signings came in, none of them take Dan James's place off him straight away. I think he's a fantastic player, and I think, yeah, he is criminally underrated, and I totally agree with Joe on this one. He'll still be one of our most important players come the end of the season. Next up is Ollie, and Ollie's hot take is this.
Right, okay, so what is my unpopular opinion? My hot take regarding Leeds United. Mateo Joseph is overrated. Ollie, what are you on about? Well, okay, maybe he's not overrated, but what I don't want is the fans to overrate him. That's what I don't want. We put so much pressure, so much eggs in our basket for Joffy a couple of seasons ago. Think he's going to be the next Wayne Rooney, but, you know, I just don't want the pressure on the young kid. Yes, he's a brilliant player. Yes, he's our number 9 now, but let's leave it at that. Let's not put so much pressure on the youngster's feet and head and knees and toes, okay? So it's a bit of a cop-out. He's not overrated, but I just don't want the fans overrating him. I mean, that's pretty rubbish, isn't it? Sorry.
No, that's perfect, Ollie. Don't worry about that. I get what he's saying. I don't think Mateo Joseph is overrated per se, but I do think that there is a tendency to put a lot of pressure on young shoulders. We definitely did it with Joffy, didn't we? Every time he came off the bench, I remember being in Elland Road and him getting ready to come off the bench and the whole crowd getting up and cheering and stuff, and it's like, this guy's a young kid, it's not going to last forever. And unfortunately for Joffy, it hasn't really lasted forever, and hopefully Mateo Joseph doesn't get that same kind of treatment. But to me, I think I'm going to disagree slightly, because I think that Mateo Joseph is a different kind of player to Joffy. Joffy was very like this is a flash in the pan kind of moment. He's a good player, but it was a very flash in the pan Premier League kind of moment for him, scoring those goals. Whereas Mateo Joseph is a little bit more like he's had to slowly work his way in. It's not like it came down to injuries. He's earned his place through his pre-season performances, his performances in training, and towards the end of last season coming off the bench. So for me, Mateo Joseph is somebody who's earned this a little bit more, and is going to steadily build into it. He's not like a super sub who's going to come off the bench and people are going to get excited. If he's starting the game, it's not like he gets that overhype from the crowd in the stadium. You might see it on social media and stuff. I mean, I released a video yesterday saying why he will be top scorer in the Championship, but I think his hype is equal to his ability and his potential. So I get him saying don't get carried away, but I think overrated or / overhyped, I don't quite agree with that one, but that's why we love opinions, and each to their own. Next up is Mr. Joe Wayman, who was walking his dogs at the time of this, which he will explain. But here's Joe's hot take.
Please forgive me for the sound quality, the wind, the rain.
The wind does go away in a minute.
I don't know if you can consider this a hot take, because I've said it so many times, but I guess a lot would disagree. I had a lot of arguments is wrong, a lot of debates on my channel when I mentioned it. Joe Rodon's not worth 10 million, and had the club not been tied up in the Archie Gray deal, they would not have bought Joe Rodon this summer. They wanted Skip before, obvious, don't know what these do. Obviously, Skip was a non-starter. And, yeah, I don't think they'd have bought him because you can go get someone who can do what Joe Rodon can do for much cheaper in the Championship or in Europe. So I actually don't think Joe Rodon is worth 10 million. And this isn't recency bias because he's had a poor start. I said this at the time, peeps. It's a lot of money to pay for a guy. Yeah, you have to start. Look, don't want to go too far, but yeah, might need a new one soon. Big up Max, big up to everyone, and I hope the sound quality was all right and not too wobbly. And peace out and love you all and all that. Leeds.
Yeah, I mean, look, yeah, perfect, Joe. Exactly what I wanted for the video anyway. But Joe Rodon not being worth 10 million is Joe's take. And it was a bit tongue-in-cheek. He was joking about having to replace him soon. But if we go up to the Premier League, I actually think we will need to replace him. It's something that I've said as well in the past, that a lot of people say, look, it's easy to get, not fooled, because Joe Rodon is a good player. Let's make no bones about it. He's a decent Championship centre-back. But he's not, he's a little bit like, gets his shirt bloody, looks like he's always raging and passionate about winning and all that sort of thing. So it's easy to kind of skew his actual footballing ability based on his demeanour and his passion for playing and all that sort of thing. Which I think is a good thing, that he is passionate, and a good thing that he does want to fly in for tackles and really be strong. But I think his passing lacks a lot. I've been saying this for a year and a half, well, since about a few months after we signed him. I think his passing lacks a lot. I think he's often playing the ball into touch, behind, in front of people. He's not quite making his passes, and sometimes he panics a little bit and just sends it long to no one and turns over possession. So I think if you're playing in the Premier League, there's a lot more pressing teams. I think he'd struggle under that pressure. I don't think he's a ball-playing centre-back, although he is being kind of made to be one at the moment under Daniel Farke. And I think, realistically, I know it's not a massive amount of difference, but probably £6 or £7 million would have been more of an appropriate fee for Joe Rodon. Look, I think if you bought Joe Rodon from Swansea, say he was at the ability he is now, but was still at Swansea, I think you're paying £6-7 million for him. But because he's at Spurs, you get that inflated price. Oh, he's a Premier League player coming to a Championship club, pay 10 million for him. I don't think he's worth that much. And I think if we go up to the Premier League, we will need to look for another centre-back to replace Joe Rodon. So with Joe's hot take, I actually really agree with him on this one. I don't think Joe Rodon's worth 10 million. Not to say I don't think he's a good player. I don't think he's quite what we need if we do go up to the Premier League. For the Championship, though, I think he's decent, but we may have overpaid slightly to get the guy that we wanted. Next up is Luke from Ought to Know Better. So here's his hot take.
Good morning. So my Leeds United hot take, or unpopular opinion, for this season is going to be that our most important signing this transfer window is going to be the return of Brendan Aronson. Make of it what you will.
So Luke thinks that the return of Brendan Aronson will be our most important signing. Now, I don't know about most important signing for me personally, if we're talking about whether I agree with Luke's opinion here. I don't know if we're talking about most important signing, but I think he's definitely up there, and he ranks amongst the signings that we've brought in. I said so many times that we needed a number 10. He is the best number 10 that we have at the club. Now, a lot of people say that Wilfred Gnonto can play that role and he can cut inside and do that job. He may well be able to, but for me, Brendan Aronson, I think, is the naturalist. The most natural, sorry, not naturalist. The most natural number 10, I think, is Brendan Aronson. And I think without him, we probably definitely would have gone out and bought another number 10. And I think from what I've seen so far of him, he's been really, really good in there. And a lot of people still perhaps haven't forgiven him for going out on loan, still think that he's dead weak and he'll just fall over under every challenge. But from what I've seen so far this season, I'm very happy with Brendan Aronson as our number 10. I think if he gets injured, we may have a few problems in terms of who plays there. But Brendan Aronson, I think he's going to be really, really good for us this season, providing he can stay fit. And so, Luke, I've got to agree with you on this one. And I don't think it will be the most popular opinion in the world, because a lot of people still don't like Brendan Aronson for leaving. Like I said, But yeah, I've got to agree with Luke here. I think Brendan Aronson's going to be really, really good for us this season. He's going to be our only kind of specialist number 10. Whilst I said in previous videos, I don't think he has the full package in terms of being able to play those killer passes as well as having the kind of dribbling ability, being press resistant. I think he's got those things, but his passing ability maybe lacks a little bit. But he's still the best number 10 that we have, I believe. And him coming back into the Championship is, he's a very, very good option for us. So now we come to the last video. Now, the last video is Joe Blackburn, and he said he wants me to live react to this. It's the longest one. He said he wants me to live react to this because his take is crazy or something. So we will see what happens here. God knows what it could. Might have to get cut out of the video if it's too controversial. He told me it's not, though. So let's see what Joe has to say. Here he is.
I'm sorry for what I'm about to say.
Oh, God. Oh,
It
no.
may shock you, but some people aren't ready for the truth. The facts, and I've been doing this for some time. Saying Patrick Bamford's a good centre-forward. Starts in January last season and we don't lose until April with him on the pitch. Say Junior Firpo's a good left-back. I'd argue he's the best left-back in the Championship right now, and I've got another little truth bomb for you. See, looking at last season, Crescencio Somerville, 19 goals, 9 assists. Jorginho Rutter, 6 goals, 16 assists. Dan James, 13 goals, 7 assists on basically half a season of football. All of these are incredible numbers and will be seen as fantastic players, but they will all be seen as worse than Pablo Hernandez. Which is where I get to the crux of what I'm saying. The truth is, Pablo Hernandez is kind of overrated by Leeds United fans. We overrate him because he was surrounded by mediocrity and then Bielsa joined and he was a big part of getting promoted and played a big part in big moments. But in that promotion season, 9 goals, 9 assists, I think we've got 3-4 players that'll outdo that this season. Dan James, I think, will perform better. Brendan Aronson, I'm almost certain, will do better numbers and will have a bigger impact. The reason we all loved Pablo Hernandez was the impact he had in big moments and what he stood for. He stood for a group of good but not outstanding footballers pushing forward to promotion under a new manager. And in reality, when it comes to his quality and people saying we need to sign another Pablo Hernandez, we'd be livid if we signed a 31-year-old from Qatar and said they're our number 10. Pablo Hernandez, I don't think, gets in this Leeds United team. And I think we overrate him in terms of quality. I love the guy, but Pablo Hernandez is firmly overrated. And I expect people to react to this one very rationally.
Great. So, Joe thinks that Pablo Hernandez is vastly overrated. Now, he had a few talking points in this video, and whilst I must agree with them on some of his points, some of them I disagree with, so we'll go through them. So, first point was that last season we had our front three of attacking midfielders. You had Dan James, you had Jorginho Rutter, and you had Crescencio Somerville, all with loads and loads of goal contributions, all with more goal contributions than Pablo Hernandez had in the promotion season where he had 9 goals and 9 assists. Yes, I agree with you. On paper, those numbers are better, and you would think bear out that means that those players are better players or played better in that season than what Pablo Hernandez did. But for me, in this case, what you have to remember is the kind of profligacy that we face in front of goal in that Bielsa team. Because Pablo Hernandez, whilst he obviously got 9 goals and 9 assists, I think he could have had a boatload more assists if Patrick Bamford could finish his dinner. Now, I like Patrick Bamford, and I'm not going at him or anything, but his shooting is not the best part of his game. I think we'll all agree on that. No matter who you are, I think you agree that that Patrick Bamford's almost worst aspect of his game is his shooting ability. So I think when you're trying to play balls into Patrick Bamford to score goals, he's going to underperform his XG by quite a lot, and you're not going to get your as many assists. So I think Pablo Hernandez, had he been put in the team last season, would have had way more assists and potentially more goals. Now, you also argued, Joe, that Pablo Hernandez would not get in this current Leeds United team. I think there's an argument to be made that Pablo Hernandez maybe wouldn't get in last season's Leeds United team, in terms of Jorginho had that role and was so good for us and got all those assists. But I think this season is a season where Pablo Hernandez, in that kind of prime peak of his powers, would get in this current Leeds United team because of that number 10, that specialist number 10 we have. Literally just talked about in the last clips about Brendan Aronson, how he has most of the aspects needed for a number 10. Pablo had all of the aspects needed for a number 10, and his best thing was his ability to thread a pass, to play a ball through. And I think Pablo Hernandez in this system, in this team, would be amazing and would fit perfectly into it if he was in his prime a few years ago. So I think Pablo Hernandez would be amazing in this current Leeds team, and that's where I've got to disagree with Joe. I think when you look at our number 10 options, Brendan Aronson, we talked about it, I think he's going to be great this season, but I think if you had the choice of Brendan Aronson or Pablo Hernandez of that promotion season, I think Pablo Hernandez gets in there, and I think he gets more goals and more assists than what he did in that season because he's got better players around him. So that's where I kind of come down on this one as well. I totally agree that if Leeds signed a 31-year-old from the Qatar League that used to play for Swansea, that Leeds fans would be massively underwhelmed and would be like, whoa, hold on a second, thought we were trying to be ambitious this season. But you've got to take it with kind of like a pinch of salt that was the situation at the time. It wasn't like... it wasn't because of the situation, it was because of the player that they wanted to bring in, if you get what I mean. Like, if we were trying to bring someone in now, I don't think we would go for the Qatar League, and I don't think it would work out in the same way. It's impossible to tell. The other thing that I do slightly agree with Joe on, and he didn't actually say this, but inferring from context, there's a lot of like rose-tinted glasses when looking at ex-players, depending on which players, because sometimes they're like, I don't know, fecal tinted glasses. Never thought I would say that on the channel, but there we go. When talking about players that were terrible in the League One years, in the Championship years, but there is a lot of rose tinted glasses about ex players who were really, really good. Who, yeah, they were really good when they played for Leeds, but do we overrate them slightly because of that nostalgia value? Because we either grew up watching them, or it was one of the most exciting times to be a Leeds fan because it was the Bielsa era, all that sort of thing. I do agree that we do sometimes overhype previous players. Kind of my hot take that would be that players like, well, maybe a few players that we've had during our time where we were really struggling, they wouldn't be that great if they were in a current Leeds team, even still in the Championship. Like Beckford, yeah, he was a goal scorer, he was a finisher, really good. Becchio, is he slightly overrated for the kind of player that he actually was? He was really good for us at the time and a bit of a shining light in a dark time. Players like Snodgrass as well. Do we look back at them with rose-tinted glasses and think of them as a little bit better than they were? Maybe we do. But having said all that, that has been Leeds United Hot Takes. Let me know what you think to basically all of the people who have responded in this video. Of course, go and check out Or to Know Better for Luke. Ollie Ward's channel is called Ollie Ward. Joe Blackburn's channel is called Joe Blackburn. Jers is called Leeds United The View. And I think that's everybody. Joe Wayman as well, the Just Joe Football Show. Let's take anybody else. I think that's everybody. If I've missed anybody, all the links will be in the description below, so go and check out their channels. Thanks for watching Leeds Lately, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh, actually, put your hot takes down below as well.